She's now with a guy who is a friend and a client of Yale's. And he's a character. He's a real character.
Wow.
And the funny thing about her first husband is that he never wanted to go anywhere or do much of everything. Shelley's a doctor, and all he liked to do was um, bet on things, sporting events and all that kind of stuff. And with Irv, Arlene gets to travel and do all kinds of things because Irv's keen to do that stuff. So I'm very happy for her because she's actually having more fun now. And
Nice.
she has one daughter who lives in Hawaii. She has a son who lives here and another daughter who lives here. Her daughter in Hawaii and her son are both doctors. And
Nice.
her other daughter who lives here is a writer. And I actually have one of Corey's books.
Nice.
So, yeah, so it's kind of cool. And Arlene's very smart, and her kids are smart. Her husband was smart. He came from Hamilton, Ontario, and I knew him because he was a counselor at the camp that Arlene and I went to. That's how they met.
Wow.
The world is very funny.
You can tell about camp, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, and camping. I think especially for kids, I think it's a really good experience because especially the camps where kids come from different places. Like one of my friends who lives here now, I met her at summer camp, and she's originally from Holland, but her parents died in the Holocaust, and so she was living with relatives in Seattle. But she came up to the camp, which is in the interior of British Columbia, and I met Judy there. Now she's married to a guy. Are you ready for this, Chris? Who was a boyfriend of mine in high school. And Yale actually took Judy out in university. So it's very funny. And we see them quite a bit. And we laugh all the time because it's just
Wow.
seriously funny. I mean, I've known Philip since we were 10. So it's kind of, it's kind of funny. And actually, his younger brother dated my sister. It never went anywhere, but they dated each other. So it's kind of a funny relationship. But we've always had fun, and that's something we do a lot of laughing.
Wow. Well, welcome everybody. This is the Bringing Humanity Together live stream for Conversation for Humanity. Of course, I am your host, Chris Berryman, coalition builder and founder of Bringing Humanity Together. Yes, this is not a camp version of Conversation for Humanity. We're not going to camp just yet. Just telling stories here. This is actually the meet and greet session of Conversations for Humanity. So, like I said, welcome everyone to the Bringing Humanity Together live stream. This is one of 3 open forums under the Bringing Humanity Together umbrella where people can discuss topics related to the workplace, humanity in the workplace, in a very positive and constructive way. We want to know what the issues are out there that are facing people because it is our goal to both work with employers and employees to bring humanity back into the workforce. And remember, we're always will be going live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, all at 3 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time, except for Conversation for Humanity when we have actually a 15-minute meet and greet section from 2:45 to 3 o'clock. And remember, every Tuesday, host is with me today from Sharon Care, Sandy Chernoff. She hosts Sharon Care on Tuesday. I host Conversation for Humanity on Wednesday, and Carla Fedigan hosts Humanity Happy Hour on Thursday. As you jump on, whether it be on YouTube or our Twitter handle, our business Facebook page, or LinkedIn Live, please let us know where you're watching from. And if you have any questions, comments, and concerns on today's topics or anything else you want to bring to the table, please let us know where you're watching from, and we'd love to be able to have that great and engaging conversation with you. And feel free to comment in the chat. And also, if you're watching this on the replay, use the hashtag replay, and also will let us know where you're watching from too as well. So we'd like to have more stories like that, Sandy. I mean, seriously, the campfire stories of probably be tales of the campfire. There you go. I like that. What stories you could tell from the camp?
Mm-hmm. I could tell lots.
I'm sure. I remember when I went to camp years ago. It was, I want to say, back in fourth grade or fifth grade.
Mm-hmm. That's usually
And
when you start.
we were at this summer camp that where actually you had the log cabins and all that kind of stuff. And I was there for, I want to say, good 2.5 months.
Wow.
And yeah, it was really nice. Um, but one day I was told, because we had arts and crafts, I was
Mhm.
told to go to the arts and crafts building and everything. And this was actually when it was close to my birthday, and the camp counselors knew it was my birthday. And I didn't know why I was getting called to the arts and crafts building, but next thing you know, I see this big old thing says "Happy Birthday" on there, and it had my name on it. And I'm thinking, who's Chris? And I was the only one at camp named Chris. So I'm thinking it can't be me, and it was. So they actually threw a little birthday bash for me
Wow.
when I was at camp one year, and that was kind of amazing and everything
Yeah,
like that. They had a birthday cake, and little presents, and everything like that. But
nice.
it was really special. It really was.
Yeah,
And we
well,
also had a campfire too. We actually had a little place that you actually have a campfire, and that was kind of nice. Like sit there and roast s'mores and all that. That was
yeah.
cool.
Well, you see, the camp that I went to is in the interior of BC on a lake called Kalamalka. And Kalamalka is an Indian word that means lake of many colors. And when you water skied on the lake, if you watched the water below you, it changed color. Like sometimes it was aquamarine, sometimes it was, a deep blue, sometimes it was sort of a
Right.
green color. I mean, it was a beautiful lake. And the camp was right on the lake. And we had water skiing and we had swimming and we had sailing and then we also had baseball and volleyball and all kinds of different things. And we also did dancing and we had parties and great food, and it was just really fun. And you usually went for a month. And my grandsons now are going to a summer camp. It's outside of Ottawa, and Sam came back last Sunday, and Jack is coming back this Sunday. He stayed longer. He's older, and the boys had a wonderful time. And it's also on a lake, so they also water ski and they sail and they play tennis and they play baseball. And this is really funny. And Sam is only 8, but what was he doing? He was playing tackle football, and he loved it. And he said, if there was an MVP award, the coach told me I would have gotten it.
Yeah. Nice, nice.
So
And see, and your version of football is different than ours because Canadian football, you actually have 250 yard markers in the middle of the field. So you actually have 50-50, and then you actually have midfield, which is basically 50. So it makes it longer. Plus, your goalposts are actually like we used to have in the old AFL days. Used to be. They're almost like 6 feet from the goal line, but your goal is like super long when you go. I
and
mean,
also, we only have 3 downs. We
yeah,
got 4, we only have 3. So
yeah,
yeah,
and if the only other thing you have to do is either if you can't get it in 3 downs, you have to pull on your third down.
well, or you kick or, whatever.
Yeah,
If you don't make it, the ball just turns over to the other team, but, you can kick it away if you don't feel you can accomplish whatever, you need to accomplish. But it's just, again, I think it's nice for kids to go away to camp and be with other kids and do sports and whatever. And I just think it's, like Sam, because he's such a social kid. And I think I told you that in Ontario, the kids haven't been in school for 2 years. And he's really been missing it because he misses being with the kids. And so the day before they left for camp, we Skyped, because normally we Skype on Sunday, but they were driving on Sunday. So we Skyped on Saturday. So I said to Sam, are you looking forward to going to camp? And he said, yeah. I said, how come, Sam? I get to socialize. It was so funny. And I said, well, do you know anybody that's going to the camp? Only Jack. That's his brother. And I said, well, what are you going to do, Sam? I'll make new friends.
yeah,
He
gotta
was
make new
so
friends.
excited. And he did. And what's funny is because we talked to him after he came back, and he said some of the kids that he made friends with actually live in their neighborhood.
Nice.
He didn't know them before he went, so now he's got some new friends in his own neighborhood. So that was cool. He had fun. That's the main thing. Hi, Carla.
Hey, how are you?
We're good.
Doing good, doing good. We're talking camp stories right now.
Oh, cool.
What was your best memory of a camp that you
What
ever went to?
fun. What fun.
Did you go to camp when you were a kid, Carla?
Not really. I mean, if we went, it was like a day camp and you stayed at home. Or I think I went to Girl Scout camp a couple of times, but nothing like kind of a northern thing. Nothing like it was for weeks at a time.
Yeah.
I didn't do that.
Yeah, my husband didn't go to camp either, so he says that he was really
My
he
kids
had a lot
like
of fun with it.
soccer camps.
Oh, soccer camp. Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, Sam likes to go to a biking camp. That's another thing that he does. It's called pedal heads. So now that he's home from camp and he was gone for a month, now he's going to pedal heads.
Fun. Good for
Nice.
him.
He loves to bike. I think I told you my son likes to run, and Mark will run like 13 to 15 kilometers. He'll go for a jog, and Sam will ride his bike beside him.
Wow.
And he's only 8, Carla, but he loves to ride his bike and he loves to go with his dad. So,
I love to bike. I love to run, but I don't like to run that far.
well, you'd have to see my son. I mean, Mark is in such good shape. He's just, it's incredible. He's strong. He's, he just is, he works out all the time. And my daughter's the same. I mean, Elisa walks to the gym, and her gym that she goes to is downtown. She doesn't live downtown anymore. She used to, but she walks. So she walks to the gym, she works out, and then she walks home.
How far is it from the gym?
It's probably a 20 to 25 minute walk.
Oh, well, that's not bad. I mean, I would do
Bad.
if they had sidewalks. I mean, I'm 3 miles from my gym. And,
Well, she has to see Vancouver. We've got a lot of water here, so she has to walk over the Cambie Street Bridge to get downtown, and then she, goes to wherever her place is, and whatever. It's fine. She's always teasing me because we both wear a Fitbit. But of course, she does way more steps than I do because she does this back and forth into her gym every
He's got at
day.
least 20,000 a day, I'm sure. Yeah.
So it's kind of funny.
I'm sure.
Yeah, so she's always giving me a bad time. I mean, Yale and I do go for a walk, but we don't usually walk as far as she does, and certainly not every day anyway. So it's kind of funny, but that's okay. I think it's good to, that people are much more sort of aware of doing things to stay fit. And I think it is important that you do that because, it's one thing to keep your brain fit and it's another thing to keep your body fit.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's important because especially if you do aerobic exercise, it sends more oxygen to your brain, which helps your brain to think more clearly. So it's actually a good thing. But it's just a matter of
recovery or two because you're already muscle.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's important.
I used to say I'd train for a 5K, and now I do a 5K religiously every time I go to the gym, I do a 5K, and that's usually five days a week, and then I walk a lot when I play golf.
Yeah, of course.
In fact, I'm waiting to see whether it's going to rain this afternoon, but I'm sure that if it rains and it's cart path only, the person I'm supposed to play with will probably say, no, I'm not doing it. But for me, I'm like, okay, cool, that's extra steps.
Well, I'm not playing with my daughter tomorrow because with the humidity, it's going to be almost 40 degrees here. And I've already had, one of those heat things and bad reaction to the heat. So I told Elise, I guess it's my age because I've never had this problem before. But I said, I can't play with you tomorrow. It's just too hot. Because as you know, Carla, there's really no shade on the golf course unless your ball goes, somewhere in the woods. But I mean, basically you're in the sun and I can't do that. So I'm not going to play.
There's a benefit to hitting your ball into the trees.
Here's the one benefit: you get to have some shade. But it's just
I'm playing for the water experience.
Yeah.
For the water.
Yeah, but it's just, I mean, when we used to go to Whistler in the summer a lot, we used to hike, and we would hike up the mountain, and we would also do. I also ran. I don't run anymore, but I used to. So I would run not 5K, Carla, 10. I would go for a 10K run.
I could probably do a 10K, if somebody said, hey, let's do a 10K together. But I'm just like, if I'm just like running, I don't have the patience for it, I guess. I just want to get it done.
Even here, I don't run anymore. I do a workout for an hour. And I think it's actually better because I'm using more muscle groups. And I also do stuff for my core strength and things like that. But because I live on this golf course and there's a trail around the golf course, so I used to run around the golf course 3 times.
Oh, I'd be on it every day.
Yeah, well, that's what I used to do. I used to run around the golf course, and it's nice because it's mostly shady because you've got a lot of trees around the edges and stuff. So it was a nice place to run. And of course, because it's around the golf course, there's no road, so you don't need to worry about cars. And that's another good thing about it. Plus, it's a dirt trail. So that's got some gravel on it. So again, it's not like running on concrete.
Right.
It's pretty tough. I mean, I do have good running shoes, but still, it's better to run on a surface that isn't that hard. So you're not jarring yourself. So it was a nice place to run. But
There's Cosmo.
Cosmo.
Well, he just, likes everybody to know he's there.
Yeah, he must have left somebody out on the street, so.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
If he gets real vocal, I'll mute myself.
No worries. There.
So what else do you want to talk about today, Chris?
Cosmo.
I truly think we need to dive more into like what we were talking about yesterday, because I was thinking today when I was at work, how do we truly connect with people at work? How do we truly get there at their level, or they come to our level, or whatever that might look like? How do we really connect?
The best way to do it is to listen. I mean, you can ask people questions and hear what matters to them, what interests them, what concerns them, all those different kinds of things, so that you can get to know them better. And once you know them better, it's easier to interact with them. But again, it requires a lot of listening, because you can't listen and talk at the same time. But in order to get to know people, you need to ask them questions about themselves and what they like to do, and so on and so forth, so that you get to know a little bit more about them, and then you can relate to them more effectively. It's just a matter of understanding some of those things. So it's very important to listen well. And a lot of people, and when I used to teach networking, and I still do that on occasion, and I say, when you go to a networking event, you got to bring lots of business cards. That's an important thing to do. But you're better off to ask the people that you meet questions about them than for you to talk about yourself, because they'll remember you better if you were more interested in them than you were interested in just talking about yourself. So it's very important, again, to ask them about their business and how they got it started and how they enjoy it, and blah, 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 and ask questions about them. And if you do that, you'll be much more memorable. And they'll probably want to get in touch with you again because you were very interested in what they were doing. Doesn't mean they won't ask you some questions, but to get it started, I think it's a better way to get the ball rolling, particularly with people that you don't know. So it's just a different approach, because a lot of people, the first thing they do is they just start telling you about themselves. Yeah, well, I have this business and I do this, and who gives a shit? So, it's just a matter of, well, seriously, Carla,
It's true. But people like to talk,
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure. I think that it's better if you ask questions and then give them the opportunity to ask you some questions.
Mhm.
And that way, both parties get to share information, and it means that you get to know better what's going on with other people. And it just makes it for a nicer, like I did a lot of networking when I started my business because people told me that's what you should do. But the truth is, I don't do it anymore, or very rarely. And the reason I don't is because most people who go to networking events are small business people. Small business people don't hire me. So I never, or hardly ever, got business from the people that I met at that networking kind of stuff. I got a little bit because one of the gals who came there works for a large storage company. And I've had business from her. But most of the other ones, I just made friends. I mean, that's really what I did. And I'm still in touch with some of them because a lot of them were very nice people.
Right.
But it wasn't good for my business per se. I think it just depends what you do, whether or not networking is really going to enhance your business or not. It's good to know people. And, that way you can even refer things to other people too. But it's just a matter of, it didn't help me particularly.
Yeah,
So,
but you never know who they're going to know.
well, that's true, Carla, but it never helped me that much just because it just, small business people mainly know small business people. So, it's just, I would occasionally get a small coaching contract or, something like that, but mostly small business don't have the money to hire facilitators to do workshops. It's just, they don't have the money. So again, I did meet lots of nice people, and some of them I'm still in touch with. And I, I'm happy that I met them, but it didn't help with my business in particular. So it just depends. But one of the things that entrepreneurs need to know is how to do that, because it is very important, and it's something that, and you have to join some of these networking organizations. So it costs you money. So if it's not, giving you a return, it's probably not worth the investment. But if you are, because again, it depends what your business is. For example, a lot of the people that I met were financial people, so of course they were looking for people that they could help with their finances, whatever. And so for them, it was probably good. And again, it just depended what you did, whether or not going to these things was going to be beneficial. And again, I met lots of very nice people. So I wasn't sorry that I did that. But again, the other thing, and I've told you guys this before, is, well, you have to know your target market. So, you got to know what kind of marketing you have to do, blah, blah, blah. And I just always would laugh and say, well, here's the thing. Name me an industry that doesn't have people, and they kind of look at me and laugh. And I say, well, I solve people problems, so I don't really have a target market. And it just depends what the problem is for any organization, what I'm going to do for them. But, I don't really have a target market, and anybody who looks at my list of clients sees that, it's hugely diverse, because it's everything from professionals like doctors and dentists and engineers and architects to construction workers and, whatever. I've also done a lot of work with nurses, Carla. I have. And, it depends what you do, who you're going after. And I don't have any specifics that I go after, because in the end, I think I told you what I did. I just got out the yellow pages and I phoned every professional organization and asked them if they had an annual conference and if they provided continuing education courses to their members. And if so, would they be interested in the programming that I provide? I also have done a lot of continuing education courses at universities, because, they all have a continuing education department. And sometimes it's not just students that go to them, it's people in the general community that come to some of those courses. So again, it's just a matter of what are you offering? And is it something that the general public would be interested in? Is it something that's appropriate for different professions and so on and so forth? And so I got a lot of conference speaking and did a lot of continuing ed courses, and I got spin-off business from those too. People would come up to me and say, I'd like to bring you into my company, whatever. So it was a good idea to do that. And, what I found, unfortunately, and that's something, that's going to be the same thing for your business, Chris, is push marketing for this kind of stuff doesn't work. It just doesn't, because we can't make people do things they don't want to do. But if they have a problem, what they generally do is they Google their problem so that they can find a solution. And that's why the SEO on the website has to be really good. So that when you Google it, we're going to come up on the first page, because that's what my website does. And that's why I get so much work from my website, because when they Google, anything that's on my site, I come up on the first page. And so, it's very important that the SEO be good and that it be tweaked regularly so that it stays good. And that's also the reason for blogging, because Google has bots that they send out into the internet, and any website that isn't growing its information with relevant materials, your Google Analytics go down the toilet. So that's another reason why blogging is so important, and why when I blog on my site, I backlink it to my workshop pages. So that also helps with the SEO. So there's, different things that you can do to enhance it yourself. But it's also, recommendations are good. And I also have a page where I list all my speaking engagements and whatever, and I always list my topic and backlink that back to the workshop page too. So all those kinds of things help with the SEO. And that's why I said, Chris, that's why WordPress is good, because you can store all these blogs on the back end, and you could go in and publish whatever you wanted, whenever you wanted, as long as all of us are contributing to you. And those of us who are going to do blogging, we need to have access to the back end too, so that we can put them up there. So then, you can publish what you want, but you have to have a blog page, and, bar on top that has all the drop downs. One of the drop downs would be blog. So, and every time a new one is published, you can also link it on Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever. You can put the link up there and say, here's a new blog. I hope you'll be interested in it, blah, 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 whatever, and put the link up so that people can, and if they know that the material is good that you're putting up in your blog, they will hit those links and they will go and visit your blog and read it. And, that brings more people to the site. So it's just a matter of, what are we doing?
Yeah. So, Carla, how do you really connect with people, whether to be at work or wherever that might have been for you? I mean, especially since you were in the nursing field for 40 years.
I would say getting to know the people that you work with and getting to know their families, and, knowing, when their birthdays are, maybe when their anniversaries are, and truly caring enough to give them a birthday card, or organize a surprise lunch or something like that. Or let's just say their kids are going back to school and their kids have an interest in something, and you might see a website that reminds you of what their child is interested in, and you could send it to them. Hey, I saw this maybe you're at home and you see it on a weekend and you think of somebody's child, and maybe you don't have their home email address. Send it to yourself at work, and then when you see it on Monday morning, you can say, "Oh yeah, I meant to send this to Danielle," and say, "Hey, I saw this weekend, and I wanted to send it to you because I thought one of your children would like it." That kind of thing, and just kind of be human and get to know people and know the people that you're working with.
Exactly.
So that's how you establish trust, respect, and rapport.
Yeah, I mean, like when I first started in nursing back in 1980, I worked with a great group of nurses, and we worked the 3 to 11 shift. And one of the nurses that we worked with was a tiny little Vietnamese girl. She wasn't Vietnamese; she's Filipino, and she was just great to work with. And we would have potlucks, and she was always in charge of bringing the Filipino egg rolls. And
Wow.
we would bring things, and we would have potluck dinners together, and just really kind of get to know each other on that social level.
Mm-hmm. And it's fun.
Yeah, it's fun. It takes some organization, but if you care about the people that you work with, and you can get management to kind of help, help.
Well, that's what my dad used to do.
that. I mean,
I
set
told
up.
you,
You could
he
set
would
up
take
like
us-
a sunshine fund,
yeah,
and
well, he
where
would
people
take us,
put in like maybe $10 a month, you know. And it's not one of those things that you have to go around and go, "Hey, you didn't put in your $5 this month," you know. It's not that kind of thing. But you know, kind of everyone's in agreement with it. And then if there's somebody whose family member is sick or there's a death in the family or something like that, you can organize getting flowers for them or use it to get a birthday cake for somebody or, you know, there's all sorts of things that you can do. You can celebrate
that's what we
Administrative
used to do.
Assistant Day.
That's what we used to do in our office, because whenever somebody had a birthday, there was always a cake, Carla, always. Yeah. And my dad, as I told you, took us away at least once or twice a year to a continuing education course that was out of town. And he took everybody and paid the whole bill. Plus, we did other fun things. I told you, we went whitewater rafting up at Whistler. We went, we played baseball, and then we go out for dinner. You know, like we do sort of fun things as an office. And it made it sort of more congenial, you know, if you will.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good thing.
We had, in one practice, we had several physicians in the practice, and there was one that I had worked with more exclusively than the other. And he was just the greatest guy, would do when my mom died in 2008, he was already in Birmingham, Alabama. And he showed up at my parents' house, not knowing their address.
Wow.
I go, because my mom had passed away and we had some people over at the house and we were memorializing her, and the doorbell rang and there he was sitting on the front porch.
Wow.
And I was
impressive.
But you know, the sad thing was that, you know, if it was somebody's birthday or anything like that, he'd always say, "Hey, we're going out to lunch today." And you know, and he would pick up the tab. He was like, you know, you guys aren't paying for it. Well, you knew he appreciated you. He'd help you turn rooms over. He'd help you with anything. He used to laugh and say, "Hey, can I help you with anything?" I said, "Yeah, I need to draw blood." He goes, "You don't want me to draw blood." You know,
wow.
but you know, he was just that kind of person. But it was like, don't tell anybody else because no one else does this in the practice, and they would frown upon it, you know? And I said, you know, that's really sad.
That is sad.
That not every physician is like that in the practice.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Yeah.
Everybody was on board with this, you know, in my dad's office, because that's just how things went. And we always had a lot of fun. I mean, that was just how it worked. And when I took the course on giving local anesthetic, and I wanted to practice, you know, so I asked Dad if I could do some of the injections for him. And he kind of looked at me, he said, "Is that what you really want to do?" And I go, "Yeah." So, you know, if my patient was seeing one of the dentists afterwards, I'd give them the anesthetic so that by the time they got there and they were ready to go, it had taken. And some other times I would just, you know, ask if I could come and do the injection. That way I got to practice.
Yeah.
Well, I have a story for you guys. Years ago, my family doctor, who's now since passed, was really good with our family, and we cultivated a good friendship because not only was he a deacon in the church that I used to go to, he took care of my dad, myself, my mom, and we would go to from everything. I mean, he was a great ear, nose, throat doctor. I mean, just like a down home kind of doctor. You go out the field somewhere and he can come to your house and take care of you. And then he was just down to earth. But what happened with me and my dad, with him, is every Sunday and every Wednesday, they would literally go out fishing together every single Wednesday and Sunday without fail.
Nice.
And they cultivated that relationship for so long. It was kind of unique when one day that I didn't see Doc in the boat, and I'm like, "Where's Doc? Doc's not feeling good today. He's not coming." Well, that's not like on him. and they would go. Well, we have a place down here that's called the Chain of Lakes, and it basically runs all the way up to Kissimmee, and they would literally hit those lakes, like I said, every time, and they would catch bass and snook and all that. But again, they were really so into one another about what they were really truly common ground with, and for them it was fishing, and they
Mhm.
just took off with that. And I'm just so thankful that came to me in my life, because there was so many times that I gone to him with a lot of great advice, even though he was my doctor. I said, "Hey, what about this? Like, this is what you need to do, Chris." And I mean, he's been passed now. I think going on about 10 or 15 years, but the guy has left an impression on me, just like you will never know. And those kind of people, you just got to count your blessings with them. You really do.
Mhm. I think you just got to get to know people and not expect anything in return. I mean, even if you're networking with people, you need to get to know them as people. And yeah, you could have the opportunity to share what you do, and if you're not expecting anything out of it, half the time they're surprised because I'm like, hey, yeah, I've got some great health and wellness solutions for you, and I have people that work with me, and if it's for you, it's for you. Okay, I'm fine with having a friendship, getting to know people.
And that's actually more priceless than anything that you can do, is when you have that relationship that's
Hmm.
really based on that trust and the acknowledgement of are being talked and engaged with, because there's a lot of things that you may have in common. Hey, health and wellness. It might be education. It might be uh, dental hygienistry, whatever that might be. You just found that common link that you can share and say, "Hey, I'd like to know more about this." It could be even about knitting.
Well, look
Now,
at how you and I got connected.
yeah,
Yeah, and and the big thing is, if you're connecting with someone, to talk about your businesses, um, you know, I'm not emotionally attached to whether I have somebody work with me or not. I'm totally open to talking about it, but I don't necessarily go into the conversation like that. I want to get to know people.
right.
But when you ask them, what can I do to help you with your business? Oh, well, I have a hard time getting customers. I'm stuck at social media, all this other kind of stuff. And I said, hey, you need to check out so and so, and you need to check out so and so. They can really help you with what you're looking at, and always work to make somebody better. Especially if you're networking like on LinkedIn or platforms or anything like that. And really, like, if you're working with people, get to know people that are next to you. Just because no one else knows each other in the cubicles that they're in, and that corporate environment where you have this little box to sit in, get out and know people. Know who in the heck is sitting next to you. Know your neighbor. Know the people across the street from you. Get to know each other.
Well, especially in healthcare, Carla, if we don't establish trust, respect, and rapport with our patients, they're not going to listen to us.
Oh, no.
Because, why? Because they don't think you care. But if you have shown that you care, then you have a far better chance that they'll actually do the things that you're suggesting that are to their benefit.
Yeah.
And it's just a whole different ball game, if you will.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you don't establish that, they won't necessarily think that you care, and so they'll actually quit listening to you.
Right.
And that doesn't help us. So the main thing is to gain that trust and establish that respect with the patients, so that they know that what you're doing and how you're trying to help them is for their benefit. It's got nothing to do with us. We have the knowledge, but we're just trying to help them so that they can be healthier, or whatever. But it's a matter of that has to be established, and you have to work at that from sort of from the get-go, and then you have to maintain it. I mean, I told you that before we had the computer, I had a Cardex, and I used to write notes about the patients. So then I would go, and before they came in, I'd go and read what I had written about them before. So, if they told me they were going on a vacation, or they told me they were getting a new dog, or whatever, it doesn't matter. So when they came in, I'd say, so Chris, how was your vacation? Did you have a good time in Spain?
I sure did.
And they'd look at you and they'd go, whoa, you actually listened to me, like whatever. They don't need to know I cheated, and went and looked it up.
Right. Well, now in a lot of practices,
do
what they ask is whether you've had any changes in your healthcare, in your
Well,
health status.
Yeah. And the thing is that some of the stuff I would remember, but once the computer was there, we had a whole section in each person's file on the computer where you could put those kinds of notes. So I would come in the morning, the same thing. I would just pull up their file and see what was going on. And then if certain treatment protocols had been recommended or whatever, and I saw that they hadn't gone forward with them, I would ask them, did the dentist suggest this to you? Okay, so are you thinking about moving forward on it? And they kind of look at me and go, well, what would you do? That's kind of the questions that would come to you. And I'd say, well, I'd kind of think about it pretty positively and think about moving forward, because if you keep leaving this, your tooth could crack and actually you'd end up with a bigger problem. So it's better to take care of this early before you end up with a bigger problem. So I would talk to the dentist when we're done today and see when you can schedule this in so that you can move forward with it. Because it would probably be a good idea. If it was my tooth, that's what I would do. And, if they trust you, then they will move forward with it. So you can actually help people, because I'll tell you, in dental offices, there are literally thousands and thousands of dollars worth of work sitting in patients' charts. And one of the reason is that it hasn't been sold to them, because they haven't been able to make an appropriate choice because they don't have enough information. And it's a matter of, you got to educate your patients. You got to show them what you're talking about. Because when somebody doesn't know what a different restoration looks like or what a procedure would be like, Carla, the verbal explanation doesn't help them very much. It's better to show pictures and, talk about different kinds of things. Like, if I showed you a gold crown or a porcelain fused gold crown or an acrylic crown, and I showed you what the differences were and what the advantages of each one were and how much each one of them would cost. So then the patient, of course, right away says, well, which one would you choose?
Yeah.
Always the first thing they say. And so, it's just a matter, I would say why I would choose the one that I would choose. And then I say, but, it's up to you. So it just depends. But here are the reasons why these different restorations are good. And they're all good. But, there are certain advantages, like a plain gold crown. Well, the porcelain isn't going to chip off. So, you're good with that, especially on a molar tooth. But, on a front tooth, you don't want a gold crown. So, you're definitely going to want a porcelain crown or porcelain fused to gold. So it's just a matter of, what are we talking about here? And show the patients what you're talking about, because then they have a much better idea and they can make a more informed decision on how they want to move forward. That's the same thing with medical procedures. Oftentimes we describe things to people using medical ease, and they don't understand a lot of the terms. So, and if you ask them if they understand, they're going to say yes, because they don't want you to think that they're stupid.
Yeah.
But they'll walk out of there going, I have no idea what she just told me.
I draw pictures for people all the time.
Yeah, exactly, Carla. And it's much better, because then they can make an informed decision on how they want to move forward, because now they have a pretty good idea of what they're getting into. And it's just a matter of helping them to be able to make that decision by giving them information that they can understand. I mean, that's really, in the end, what it boils down to. And, I think I told you one day that I sat in on a treatment plan presentation to a patient, and I knew the dentist very well. And I said to him when the patient left, I said, you realize she's not going to move forward with anything? And he looked at me and go, why? I said, because you didn't show her anything. Well, I explained it to her. I said, yeah, you explained it to her in words. You and I know what those things are, so I don't need a picture. But she has no idea what you explained to her. She needs to see it. I said, don't you have pictures of those things? Of course I do. I said, well, why didn't you show her? So he says, well, why didn't you tell me that? I said, I'm not going to butt in while you're
embarrassed in front of them.
Exactly, Carla. I said, I'm not going to do that. That's very inappropriate and rude, and I would never do that to you. He said, well, you should have. I said, no, I don't think so.
I don't think it would have gone over real well at the moment.
No,
So
I agree.
if you're doing a treatment plan, be prepared to show the various options that you are suggesting with a picture so that they have a clearer idea of what the heck you're talking about, because otherwise they don't. And I said, she'll go home and her husband say, well, what did the dentist say to you? And she'll look at him and go, I have no idea.
Yeah. When I used to do medical histories, I used to ask patients if they had a history of cystic fibrosis in their family, and that's a respiratory genetic related disease. And they go, oh, yeah, my mama had fibrosis. And I said, oh, really? Did you get tested for it? Oh, no, she just had her uterus taken out. And I realized that they were thinking that fibrosis was the fibroids that were in the uterus.
Yes, exactly.
So I had to kind of reframe it and say there's a genetic disease called cystic fibrosis that causes respiratory problems. And a lot of people don't live into adulthood with that. Do you have that in your family? But those kind of things, they don't know the medicalese.
No, they don't know it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, it's a lot easier for us to use that term because it's specific. But when they don't know what it is, it's better to give them an explanation and try to do it in lay terms as much as possible rather than using medicalese. It's the same thing if you go to a lawyer, and they talk to you in legalese and you're sitting there going, oh, that's really interesting. I have no idea what he's telling me. It's got to be explained in language that we understand. So it doesn't matter if it's dental or medical or legal or engineering or architecture. It doesn't matter what it is, but it's a lot better if you can explain it in words that they understand or show them a picture or, something that they can relate to. Because if you can do that, you'll have a far better chance of convincing them to move forward with what is going to be beneficial to them. Because then they are more able to make an informed decision. Because they have more information that they actually understand, and then they can actually make a choice. But, a lot of times it's just easier for us to use that terminology, and that's fine if you're talking to dental people or medical people or other legal people or whatever. That's fine, because they all know those words. But the general population doesn't usually know those words.
Yeah.
So, it's not helpful to use them, even though it's very specific for us and, it's right to the point and blah, blah, blah. But it's not helpful to lay people. So, that's not the way to talk to them. Because again, if you tell them, oh, so do you understand that? Well, they're going to say yes, because again, they don't want you to think that they're stupid. But darn well, if you think about it, there's no way they understood you.
It went in one ear and out the other.
Yeah. They just understand the words. So it doesn't matter. But it's understanding to be more appropriate with people who aren't part of your profession, so that you can, and if you do that, you'll establish a much better relationship with them, because then they know that you actually care and you're trying to help them and all those kinds of things. And so it's the same thing with colleagues, Chris. If you're nice to them and you inquire about their family and about what they like to do on the weekend and, different kinds of things like that, so that you get to know them, it's a whole different kind of relationship. And it makes it more pleasant. And then, if you need some help or they need some help, they'll be far more likely to talk to you about it. And if there's, all these barriers and all this kind of stuff that just
it's just being human, and it's just being kind to people. I don't know why anybody would think that they would have to force themselves to talk to people that they work with. It's
normal.
Right. It's normal.
It's normal and natural.
It have to be a hard exercise to understand.
Exactly. But a lot of people aren't good at it and don't do it. And, part of it is just, like I told you about my grandson who likes to socialize, some people are they're very remote. They're very,
but there are some people that, so you could be somewhat shy. You could be someone that doesn't give a crap about other people, or you could be someone that really has some serious insecurities. Granted, But for the most part, it doesn't cost you anything to be polite to people and to be nice to people and say, "Hey, how are you?" Thinking past into your nose and going, "Hey, how are you? How was your day?" You know,
A lot of
what can I do
reserved
to help
people,
you?
a lot of people that are very reserved sort of are not comfortable doing that, Carla. It's just, I mean, we all know people that are like that, that they're so reserved and, sort of inside themselves that they don't know how to be social. They really don't. I mean, my son is very outgoing and Sam is just like his dad. But my other grandson is much more like his mom, who's more reserved. I mean, I know Kim very well now, so she's not reserved around me anymore. But I won't let her. But but
Wow.
Why does that not surprise me? Yeah.
yeah, but Jack is much more like his mom. He's not like my son. And you can see the differences. And so for Jack, it's hard for him to make friends. He doesn't have very many friends. And because he's very smart, he often will say things that he probably shouldn't say, but he just says them because, it just comes out, well, you should know that, or why don't you know that? Or, that kind of, what you just said was stupid, things like this. And, people don't really like that too well. So it doesn't endear you to other people, but it's just a matter of he's starting to learn some of that and he's backed off quite a lot. But it's just a matter of, and Sam is just so different because he's just so funny and loving. And, I mean, the first thing when I see him, he just jumps up at me, gives me this huge hug, and a big kiss. And I mean, that's just Sam. Jack will give me a hug, but it's not really as forthcoming as it is with Sam because he's just a much more reserved kind of person. It is. But I think that over time, he's starting to learn because he is smart that if he's going to have more friends and not have people angry with him and stuff, he needs to think about what he's saying before he says it and, sort of pay more attention to things that are appropriate and not inappropriate. So I think I told you guys that he went to French immersion, so he speaks French beautifully. So when he went back to regular school and he had a French teacher and she said something that was inappropriate and he told her in front of
Oh,
he happened to be right, but I'm sorry, you don't do that. So he realized once he did it that was a big.
Did he do it in French?
Yes.
oh my word.
I
Yep.
love it. I love it.
Yep. And see, one of the things he used to do before Sam knew any French, because he knew that I knew French, because my mom grew up in Montreal, and so I actually was pretty fluent in French when I was younger. And so Jack would talk to me in French. And ultimately, Sam eventually, because he's smart too, he got to understand it. So he would say to Jack, I know what you said.
Yeah. That's
Well,
funny.
What
It's funny.
also shows up for me too as well is, let me ask you ladies, has there been a big disconnect from leaders really connecting with their partners or employees in their workplaces? Has there been a big disconnect? Have you seen in the past?
I've seen it, but as I said with my dad, it wasn't like that. I mean, my dad was, friendly with everyone and wanted to help everyone. And, because I think I told you also that that were afraid of needles, my dad learned hypnosis. And so for those patients, he didn't use anesthetic, he used hypnosis so that they didn't need to worry about getting a needle. I mean, he was very into and sensitive to how people react to things and how they, related to things. And that's why everybody in the office had fun and was comfortable because of how he dealt with things. And my brother's pretty good that way too. So he always had staff that was, comfortable and, it's just a matter of what do you do? And some people, again, are better at this than others just because of their nature and how they do things. Some people are just naturally good at this. But I think a lot of bosses sort of figure, they're on a pedestal above other people and, you're a lowly employee, whatever. And it makes employees very uncomfortable and it makes them very unapproachable, which is not helpful in an organization. you should feel like you can approach your boss about something. Particularly, you might have a really good idea. They're going to miss opportunities by turning people off in that way.
Right.
And it's sort of a shame, but they just have this idea that they're the boss, and so, whatever. Well, I'm sorry. It's not about you. It's really about the people that you work with and how comfortable you can make them and how you can show your appreciation towards them when they do certain things and so on and so forth. And if you don't do that, I'm sorry. In my opinion, you're not a good boss.
Right.
You're just not. Because you should be friendly. People should not be afraid of you. I don't think that's the whole thing with a boss, that you need to be afraid of your boss. That doesn't
Oh my
work.
gosh, the boss is in the building.
Yeah, exactly. That isn't how it should be. And people who make that difference, it's just not a comfortable working environment with that. Because every time that boss comes around, everybody shrinks, and I hope he doesn't notice you and get mad at me. Yeah. So it's just a matter of how you approach things. And I think good bosses are friendly and supportive and encouraging, because it shouldn't be about them. Yes, it's their business, no question about it, but it doesn't mean that they have to separate themselves from the people that they work with. And if they do, those people are going to feel uncomfortable. They're not going to want to share anything with him. And again, opportunities will be missed, because the people in your organization that are actually doing the work, sometimes they come up with ideas that can make things more efficient or can, do whatever. And if they're not comfortable to share it with you, then you're going to miss out on the opportunity to have something work better.
Yeah.
That's a shame. It's a shame for everybody. It's a shame for the person who came up with the idea, and it's a shame for their colleagues and for the organization itself. So if you are scaring your employees, what is the point?
Right.
Or controlling them. Yeah, I was talking to somebody yesterday that said that he does several different things in his work that he's doing, and the owner of the company, wants him to be able to work on social media for the company and do this and do that. Yet, he won't give them the passwords, for the accounts. And I said, well, you know what? You need to tell them, what, you're missing out on a lot of business potential here, because nobody's seeing your social media information here. So if you really want to grow the business, you need to give up the keys to the kingdom and allow people to help you with your social media.
Right.
You're missing out on opportunities.
Of course. Absolutely.
And for me, I have seen it for far too long as well. That, again, I will go to what John C. Maxwell says in the 21 Areas of Laws of Leadership. When we start leading by permission versus position, we can get more things done, because we're not doing it from that, well, I am the king of this castle, you have to jump and not tell you to jump, and all that kind of stuff. And it's not about that. It really isn't.
No.
And when we really connect with people, especially in leadership positions, not management, because there's a big distinction between management and leadership. But when we get into our leadership positions, as we do have, and we can let go of that positional mindset and say, hey, I'll help you today with this, Carla, or you can help me with this tomorrow, Sandy, whatever that might be. I think that shows some humanity. We can when we can literally let go of that authority to a certain degree, and that goes a long way to say, hey, I'm not in here for you guys. I'm here for all of you, because they try to put the focus on themselves and not necessarily for the greater coalition that's there.
Well, and also when people are part of the process, when the process has been collaborative, when people have had an opportunity to have input, they're far more likely to accept it and deal with it than when it's imposed upon them. Now you're going to do it this way. I'm sorry. That usually just doesn't feel good. But if
Yeah.
you have a collaborative approach to things and you listen to people and their ideas, and then we put everything together towards whatever we're working towards, then, the people are going to be far more likely to take part and to agree and to do it because they were part of the process. They helped to come up with whatever we were trying to come up with. But if you just try and impose things on people, not a good approach.
Well, if you can work together and have like a team huddle, like for example, in the restaurant industry, if you see that there's an issue because maybe food's not going out fast enough, or this is happening, or that is happening, collectively identify what the problem is, and you may have a solution, which is a great start. And you could think it through together as a team and say, okay, so I see this as a problem and I've been thinking about a solution. So I want to throw it out there. We can modify it, add to whatever, but I see that we ought to do something in this way, and how the benefit of it along the line. And maybe you might run into a snag or something, and you say, okay, but if we do it to this point and then we do this, that'll solve that problem too. And it's a team approach to that. Like this guy I was talking to yesterday, he was going, I get so frustrated because I have to tell my boss 3 or 4 times to order parts and so many different other things that he doesn't order. Where is it? If I've got a running list of stuff I need to order, I could be ordering parts every other day or every day or whatever, and on a regular schedule. Then customers aren't complaining because their equipment's getting fixed faster. So it's kind of you have to come up with ideas, and collectively doing those ideas makes the team stronger.
Well, that's also why cross-training is good, Carla, because, just because it's not your job, but if you know how to do it, and if nobody else is doing it and it needs to be done, well, why can't you do it? I mean, it's just a matter of, we did that in the dental office a lot. Yes, it wasn't my job to pull charts or file charts or to order stuff, but, if I had a cancellation and I had time, I would go into the front office and ask them if they needed help, or ask in the clinic, is there stuff we need to order? Is there a list in the storeroom? Should I call the dental supply company? They said, oh, would you? Sure, I can take care of that. So you go and you take care of those things. So what's wrong with that? That's what a team does. We help each other. We work together. But if you haven't been trained to be part of a team that works collaboratively and supports each other, then it's not a very comfortable place to work. And that all comes from the top. If the top doesn't demonstrate the behaviors that they want their people to employ, then why would they care? So it's a matter of, I remember sometime that my dad would even phone the supply company and order some stuff. Don't we have a big list in the supply room? Who is supposed to do the ordering? Never mind, I'll take care of it. And you just go in there and get the list and phone. We'd all laugh. But, he just happened to have the time at the moment. And, that speaks volumes to the rest of us. Right. So it's a matter of, what are you doing? And what impression are you making on the people that you work with? If everybody's afraid of you, it's not really a good situation. But if you're one of the regular guys, in terms of how you fit in, and, like if something needs to be swept up and you go grab the broom and you sweep it up, that just shows that you're a regular person. Just like the rest of us.
Oh, don't do that. That's not your job. And I'm like, what?
So what? So what if it's not my job? Right now, I don't have anything else to do, so I'm happy to take care of this.
Right.
And it's just a matter of, I told you that sometimes when I needed somebody to do a charting with me, sometimes it was a dentist, because if he didn't have anything to do at the moment, he'd come and chart for me. That's just how the office worked, or vice versa. If I, had time, I would clean instruments and bag them and put them through the sterilizer. Who cares? It's something that has to be done. It was the same thing back in the day when we didn't have digital x-rays, and you had to actually put them first in the developer, and then you had to put them in the fixer, and you got to rinse them in between, and everything has to be timed. And, if I'm busy working on a patient, I often didn't have time to do that. So I would ask somebody in the front office, when you guys, when the timer goes, can you switch it to the fixer for me, please? and people would usually say yes. I mean, there wasn't really an issue. It's just a matter of if it's a team and if we help each other, then you can ask people and they'll be happy to help you if they can.
Mm-hmm.
Vice versa. I mean, I was always happy to help if I could. So, when that's how the team works, it's a very different environment and the outcomes are different and everybody gets along and is happy and, everything's productive. So it's not rocket science and it's not that hard, but somebody's got to set the tone, and it's usually the leadership. And if the leadership doesn't set the tone, then none of this happens. And if people are afraid of the leader, that's really bad.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just really a bad situation. People shouldn't be afraid of their boss. I'm sorry, that's not how things should work. And I told you that tech company I worked from, they were afraid of the boss. I told you he came to one workshop, and they were far less participatory in that workshop than any of the other ones that he didn't come to. So I was glad he didn't come to them. Well, they were afraid of him, Chris.
And that's the thing. We shouldn't be guided by fear, and we shouldn't guide others by fear. Because if we guide by fear, we don't get to where we want to go, or we don't get them to where they want to go.
Well, and that's very humane. I mean, I'm sorry. It's not the way to deal with people. It's just really not. And so, when people are easier with each other and more accommodating and more supportive and more helpful, and it's just such a better way to run whatever kind of business you have. I don't care what kind of business it is. But when everybody's on the same team and we all help each other and support each other, it's just a whole different kind of business. Mm-hmm. And that tone has to be set by the leadership. And it's very important for the leaders of an organization to commit to establishing and maintaining the kind of internal culture that feels like that, where it's respectful and it's supportive and it's encouraging and it's acknowledging, and everybody pitches in and helps everybody else. Doesn't matter what your job is. Okay, I know that's not my job, but so what? I got a little time right now. You need help with that? Here, I'll help you. How hard is that? It's not that hard.
No.
If that's your mindset, and if that's, sort of what everybody does, so we'll all do it. Who cares?
And if everybody helps everybody out, then it makes it for a better place to work.
Absolutely. But again, it's got to be something that's established and maintained, and everybody does it. If everybody does it, hey, we're all cool. That's fine. No big deal.
And when people don't, that's a whole nother issue that needs to be addressed and nobody wants to address.
Well, and that's the thing, if somebody isn't on board as everybody else is, that's when the boss needs to take them aside and say, you really need to help out in these situations.
Yeah.
Because
sadly, they don't always do that.
That's right, but they should. And if they don't, then it's a problem for everybody else because we're all feeling, that person taking everything.
To me, people shouldn't necessarily need a boss. Everybody should know what it is that they're supposed to do. Everybody should be open for suggestions for doing things differently. Not every satellite location can be run exactly the same way. There can be several commonalities, but you can't always get everything to be run exactly the same way. But people should know what to do. A good boss should not have to intervene.
No. But if somebody isn't cooperating, that's when they have to intervene, Carla, and say, this is something that you need to consider. And if you're not prepared to do that, then you may lose your job.
Yeah.
Because everybody else is on board with this and you are making waves.
And I think that's one reason why a lot of people will leave a job, because management won't step up and take the bull by the horn, so to speak, and address an issue.
Yeah, right. Which they need to. I mean, that is something that leadership needs to take care of. And if they're not doing it, it makes everybody else upset. Mm-hmm. Because if they're doing everything and we've got these one or two people that aren't on board with everybody else, and they're getting away with it, doesn't make us feel good.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of that's something that the management or the leadership or whatever you want to call them, they need to be stepping in and taking care of that. They don't need to do it in front of everybody. That's not the way it
Oh,
should
no,
be done.
no.
It should be done privately. They should do it, in a private office and say, I don't know if you realize this, but everybody else is helping everyone else and you're not. And that's making other people uncomfortable. I've had complaints from other people. And therefore, unless you are willing to do what everybody else is doing and help out and support other people, we may have to terminate you. So I want you to think about this and consider doing the things that everybody else is doing because you're making people uncomfortable.
Mhm.
So, and if they don't want to change, that's fine. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
So, so what would be your call to action, ladies, to get more in touch with not only our very humanity, but how we can truly connect with others? What would be your call to action?
Well, I think that people should be, I don't know if instructed is exactly the right word, Chris, but I think that people should be encouraged to get to know their colleagues and to ask them some personal questions and to, answer those personal questions back when they ask you so that you understand them better, know where they're coming from, know what matters to them so that you don't do something that's going to insult them or upset them or whatever. And I think the better that we know the people that we work with, the less likely we are to step on people's toes and do different things. It doesn't mean that it won't happen, but I think it's far less likely to happen if we are nice to each other and we support each other and we help each other and all those kinds of things. And if we do, it just makes a nicer atmosphere. And then we know that if we need a hand, we can ask somebody and they'll help us. So it's just a matter of, I think, the humanity piece in the workplace is really about people collaborating, supporting each other, being a really good team. And if we can be a good team, then the business will be successful. We're all going to be happy and they'll have very, very, very low turnover, which, as we all know, is very expensive. So, if people are happy and feel appreciated and enjoy working with their colleagues, they're not going anywhere. They're going to be happy to come to work.
Right.
Not rocket science.
Carla?
What happened to we can't hear you, Carla. What happened to your mic?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, okay. There you go. Now we can hear you.
Okay. I agree with what you said. And I love that it's not rocket science. I think it starts with getting to know the people that you work with. And if you're not doing that, why are you not doing that? Is it because you're reserved? Get out of your own way and get to know people. You can actually enjoy life. Is it because you don't give two flips about people? Examine yourself, okay? And if it doesn't, like Sandy says, it's not rocket science. It's treating people as human beings and treating them with kindness and getting to know them. You'd be probably amazed at what you all have in common. We all have a lot in common that we just haven't explored yet.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
And it doesn't mean you have to have them over for Sunday dinner or anything like that, but get to know them, get to know maybe what their struggles are. You could probably be a little bit more understanding if you knew that somebody had a foot that they had to get on the school bus, or they had one with special needs or something, and that emergencies come up. You could deal with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Have a little empathy, but really get to know them.
A little humanity goes a long way.
And it doesn't cost you anything.
No, absolutely not.
Great.
Not that hard.
Yeah.
It's not hard.
Yeah.
No.
What about you, Chris?
Well, for me, my call to action is just reach out to people as best you can, whether it be that one person today or that one group tomorrow, whatever that might be. Just literally go out and again, I will go back to this very quote: "Do the right thing. Doing the right thing is the right thing to do because you can't go wrong with right." And to me, if we can do that and do it from one person at a time, there's nothing we can't do.
That's right.
And like I said, it's always about opening yourself up to a connection, to the power of positivity and the power of possibility. And if you
Yep.
allow that to occur in your life, you're going to be not only better for it, but others might be better for it too as well.
It's a win-win for everybody, Chris.
Yep.
It is. Truly is.
Yep.
Truly is.
So, as always, ladies, thank you so much for this great and engaging conversation. So, are we going to be up for some sips and tips for tomorrow, dear Carla?
I don't know. It's thundering outside. I don't think golf's going to happen this afternoon. I got to call the golf course. And the radar's not looking too favorable either. So,
okay. Well, hopefully we'll have a great conversation with you for Humanity Happy Hour tomorrow, because I'm sure it's going to be really engaging. I mean, like I said, I'm so thankful and honored you guys are with me on this journey here at Bringing Humanity Together. And it's been a great wealth of knowledge that I hear from you guys each and every single time. So we'll see everybody tomorrow for Humanity Happy Hour.
Absolutely.
see you tomorrow.
See
Yep.
you
Bye, everybody.
tomorrow.
Good evening,
Bye-bye.
everybody. Bye.